You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And this is our prototype episode, our romance dawn, if you will, of a brand new podcast that's dedicated to the world of anime and manga, brought to you by the entertainment website In Between Drafts, of which, Travis, you are the anime and manga editor. And I'm so happy that you are, because you know more about anime and manga than most people I know.
Well, that's sweet of you to say.
I'm just being honest too. I'm glad I'm being sweet as well. But yeah, for this show, we're going to be discussing One Piece chapter 1071, which you could read right now for free on the Viz website. If you are listening to this within like a few, I think you said like 3 chapters is when it expires, and then you have to basically have a subscription.
Yeah, and that subscription's like $2.50 a month, so it's kind of the easiest subscription deal.
It's like such a no-brainer. Even if you only read One Piece, it's worth it.
Yes, absolutely. It's the best deal in comics if you like comics at all.
All right, well, to kick things off, Travis, on that note, when it comes to manga, I want to know real quick, how long have you been reading the One Piece manga? I'm dying to know, because I do know.
Oh, man. To give you an exact date requires me to do some math, but a really long time, since I was in grade school.
Grade school? What arc was that?
Yeah, right.
Skypiea?
It's gotta be
before that, huh?
So I don't know how much you know about the actual Viz publication history of One Piece, but the Shonen Jump used to be published physically as a monthly magazine. And
I used to get it at FYE.
Yeah,
back when that was a thing.
And I used to be obsessed with it because they would put in Yu-Gi-Oh cards as promos. So the very first issue of Shonen Jump, I think they said it was like 15 years ago recently on Twitter. I want to say that.
15, huh?
Something like that. The first issue had a Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'm not going to drag this out very long. But they had a Blue Eyes White Dragon. I discovered that card existed months later at an event, and I became obsessed with obtaining it, to the point where I started buying the magazine just to find that card, not realizing that it had already been printed and done with. So within the first year of Shonen Jump's printing, is when I started reading One Piece, and they basically picked up at a random spot and just started releasing chapters.
I see. So it wasn't like during the simultaneous.
No, this was okay. They were catching up at the time. The most visceral memory I have of getting started, like the first few chapters of One Piece I ever read, was in with Usopp joining the crew.
I see.
It was the early parts of that story arc, and then I went back and they started releasing the actual volumes, so I actually went back through my local library and it started from the top and read all the way up. And I've been consistently reading it in some form or another ever since. Amazing.
We are so blessed now that reading manga in general is so much easier for us than it definitely was when I was coming up. So, because I don't even think I had the option to read One Piece until probably when I was in high school, if that. And it probably would have cost way too much money for a high schooler. I would have had to buy the volumes, and my library didn't have any manga at all. So at least that I was aware of. For me, I didn't start reading the manga because I was anime first. I think you were manga first. Are you a manga diehard?
So I didn't have access to cable around that same time. So my anime experience was the Pokemon anime and like Yu-Gi-Oh and whatever else 4Kids dubbed.
I got into the One Piece anime through. I think it was Kids WB. It was either Kids WB or Fox Kids.
It was on Fox Kids. 4Kids did dub it, but that was about a year and a half after they started. We were at least 2 or 3 years behind of everything happening in Japan at the time.
Because I think manga came out in 97. Right. I don't think I was watching the anime till like 99, 2000. something like that.
Yeah, at least 2000. And I remember when they were talking about it in the magazine, it being a really big deal. I still have all of those old volumes.
I vaguely remember
somewhere.
that. I remember because it was like right before the Fox box. And anyway, we could be talking about this way too long.
We could go
all
forever.
All that to say, I got into One Piece once we hit. I think it was the time skip. Because I was catching up on the anime because I fell off, and like we'll do a retrospective one of these days, and I'll talk about all that fun stuff. But manga wise, I wasn't reading it until Fishman Island, like right when the time skip was popping, basically. So since then, yeah, I've been with it pretty consistently. I did drop off during Dressrosa because, like, how could you not? I mean, I just at a certain point, I think it was like during the God Usopp stuff, where I was just like, this arc is terrible. Like, I can't put up with this. I'll read it all like once it's out, and then I don't think I came back to it until they were like a couple chapters into Zoe, basically, and I've been with it ever since. But anyway, that's it. So, we are a long ways away from that era.
Yeah, a long ways away from that ultimately. But that's funny because Dressrosa is one of my favorite arcs, including all the God Usopp stuff.
Well, I think that like going back, it was just the week to week stuff, man. And I don't know how you had the patience for it, but like the Coliseum stuff. And like, I just was like, it was so exhausting to me, And I needed a little bit of a break anyway from One Piece at that point in my life, I guess.
Yeah, no, literally the only reason I think I can handle it, especially in these days of serialization and the fact that One Piece holds up way better on a reread. It does. My brain is trained. I have been trained for too long.
Yeah, I didn't love Skypiea the first time. I had to kind of like warm up to it and like a reread, honestly. So
yeah, we're going to have a lot of those moments, I think, in the next little while where older arcs get reevaluated now that we have all the context we need. And on that note, this chapter, holy crap.
I want to get your general thoughts on it. And I'll start with the fact that the pacing of Egghead and this entire arc, I mean, I'm kind of curious what they're going to call this arc once it's said and done, because it's not just Egghead. Like, there's so much else going on. But yeah, generally, Travis, I mean, what do you think of the chapter?
Every single one of these has been a banger. I've come away with answers to things and new questions. It's very much the antithesis of a lot of long arcs, which feels wild because this does not feel like an in between, like, pace setting arc like Zoe was, even though Zoe had a lot of action going on and is relatively decently paced. This is entirely different. I don't think we've ever been in a state where it feels like we're just pedal to the metal all the time.
I mean, the only close approximate you can really grab to it is like, it's kind of like a combination of Sabaody Archipelago and Impel Down right now, where it is sort of moving really fast like Impel Down, but it's also kind of like all over the place like Sabaody, and it has all of these characters kind of converging like Sabaody, but it also feels like it has way more urgency because Sabaody was more of a pace setting similar to Zoe, right?
Yeah, it was right up until the end. I would say it's one of those that we're using to kind of de-escalate things.
Yeah,
because that's a very
not that we needed
thing.
It after Thriller Bark. Like, I feel like we were already kind of cruising along.
No, but considering how just emotionally impactful, and I was reading week to week in those moments, so like that, like the end of Sabaody hits like a truck. Because up to that point, nothing like that had ever happened.
The anime was still good at that point, so I was feeling it.
The anime adaptation of Sabaody is actually really, really good.
I would say
that's my hot take on that. My favorite action scene in all of the anime is in Sabaody. It's when he punches Charles straight in the face.
I was just like, I mean, I'm a sucker for any anime where like it's such a brutal hit that it like reverts it to manga. Black Clover's done that a couple times. But generally I like this chapter a lot. I'm just enjoying the fact that it just feels like Eiichiro Oda is not just dwelling on a single island and just sucking us into like countless new characters. This feels focused. This feels like the new characters we're getting kind of matter, are important. They're characters that I've been waiting to see fleshed out kind of coming in. And in this chapter alone, like we have Garp in this, we have We start off with Kuma. We flesh out more of the Vegapunks. This is like a far cry from Wano, where it just felt like it feels like with Wano and Dressrosa and even Zo to an extent and Punk Hazard, they felt like I was reading a new manga. You know what I mean? It just felt like it was like I'm entering a new world. This island isn't just, a next chapter. It felt like it's like, oh, okay, it's a bunch of new characters that I have to get to know and I have to care about. And that was the exhausting thing to me, but we're not getting that with Egghead, I don't think.
I don't know how much you want to get into talking about other content creators or anything, but Mr. Morge? How do you say it? I don't know.
I forget.
He put out a video this week calling this... The rates. See, and that's usually why I'm going to be real. Like, the man can stick his heels in extremely hard on a theory. That's a strike against him. I'll give him this.
He's not my favorite One Piece YouTuber, but I respect the guy a lot.
He's consistent, but I think he nailed it right on the head with his take on this week, which is that what we're seeing right now is the beginning of the greatest tournament arc in the history of manga. Because unlike most tournament arcs, which are used to introduce a larger cast, like you think of like the Naruto Chunin exams or in Hiroaka with the sports festival, they used that to really flesh out the secondary cast. One Piece has been fleshing out the entrance for this massive multi-area battle for decades, literally decades. So we're excited about this because while we've got new characters, you can tell he's been wanting to draw this Vegapunk character forever until that joke. He's had it forever. But like Garp is here and Garp is about to throw fists and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to see. I've wanted to see this since I was a child.
Well, it definitely clicked for me when all of a sudden we weren't doing the Reverie thing where it's like, oh, we'll go to the Reverie, but only for a couple chapters and then it's dropped. It's like, oh no, like right after the chapter where Law faces off against Blackbeard, we get the next part. We're not just off screening all the fights like
that
we did
was
in Onigashima.
Shocking to me.
I couldn't believe it.
And I feel like we're going to see what Garp does next in 1072. I feel that now. I've never felt this way about a One Piece
I'm curious how much they're going to stick to that, right? Because we see him at G14 at the Marine headquarters. And he's picking up Helmeppo to go save Kobe. I forget the other sword member who's there with Kobe. Because
she's a new character, so I have also forgotten her name. I don't
remember her name. She hasn't really made that much of an impression yet. But we know that she's like a diehard Kobe fan, just like us. And I'm kind of confused, though, because Sakazuki, I believe, is at G14 right now as well, unless something's happened and he's left for some reason. But I'm pretty sure he's at the headquarters.
I think he's still at HQ. I think he's actually still at HQ.
Okay.
Because like half the fun of the Sakazuki sections of One Piece right now is that he's been punished for his gigantic crimes with a desk job. The man wants nothing more than to just go out there and do war crimes, and he literally can't.
I do love the idea, like some people are floating that like that is going to be his ultimate, like the ultimate revenge, like for Ace and Whitebeard and all that stuff that went down, is that he's going to be like miserable and he doesn't get to do any fight and there's no like Luffy beats him up. I mean, I think that there will be a confrontation, but anyway, that's a whole other thing.
As another note of this arc kind of in general, I like that we're not just necessarily getting all of our expectations subverted, because we had Rob Lucci show up and you and I talked about this pretty actively while it was happening.
Yeah,
everybody's like, oh, this is going to be... Yeah, because everybody's like, this is going to be... he's just going to completely trounce him. And I'm over here like, I've been reading this so long. I'm like, no, there's going to be some sort of like twist. Like he can't turn on Gear 5th. Right.
I sent you the Yamcha meme.
The Yamcha meme. And I'm like, I don't know how this is, it's like, they're probably going to come up with something. And like, I personally didn't care because like, I've wanted a rematch on this for a long time. This is a great like milestone marker of just how far we've come. Because that was one of the most brutal fights in the entire series. And then it plays out more or less like the Yamcha picture. Like,
I mean, it's definitely not a trounce, right? Like he's able to go toe to toe with Luffy, but Luffy overwhelms him.
And Luffy's not. He's not putting in the same kind of work he put in like against Kaido, for example.
Yeah, no, I know. We debated this too. We were like, well, okay, is he using Conquerors or Advanced? Like, is he really like pushing himself, or is he really just handling him?
I think he was just having a good time. Once he realized that, just like, oh no, it's okay, I can play with you a little bit. but I got something to do, so I'm gonna go do that thing. Like that's kind of it's an interesting change for Luffy, that he's grown to at least a point where he can be like, you know what, this is not worth my time.
Right.
He used to always have the time, but he doesn't. He's like, nah, I got things to do, man.
There's that moment where Lucci's like, I do not view Straw Hat as an emperor. And it's like, you could kind of see it, like Stussy and Kaku are just kind of like, you lost to him. Like, it's kind of like, who are you to kind of, but I do think there is some weight behind that where he doesn't view Luffy as like really a threat against the world. You know, it's not just power levels. I think people forget that when it comes to emperors. It's not just about somebody being extremely strong. Otherwise, Mihawk would be an emperor, wouldn't he? It's also like the influence, their ability to wreck the world with like a movement, like that kind of thing. And I think Lucci, they're setting up some poetic, you know, revelation for Lucci to be like, oh, okay, there actually is something to this guy, because clearly Luffy didn't break his will when they fought at Enies Lobby, which is usually what happens when Luffy fights somebody, a villain, and they come back in the story. They've kind of changed more, but it seems like Lucci is just still, you know, Lucci.
Lucci is kind of interesting. Even here, he seems okay. So he's one of the smartest. He's just one of the smartest characters kicking around here. He kind of understands the score a little bit.
I want to rewatch his flashback.
Right. It's very it's much like Kaido's. It's very short. But for different reasons, I think. But like even in this chapter where when the shields go down, and I'm sure we have plenty to say about what happens in those few panels. But he's just as skeptical as everyone on the other side. He has a lot of questions. He's had a lot of questions coming into this. He has plenty of questions on what the heck is going on with Luffy. He's almost too curious. You know what I mean? Because we got the cover story. Things. Yeah, we got the cover story where they were living their lives outside of Cypher Pole.
Yeah.
You know, and he seemed possibly content with that, and then just doesn't. And now you have a Lucci who's like, you know, I wonder, they're sending us to kill the most valuable asset they have. Does this have to do with that island that disappeared that we're not supposed to talk about? And they're like, you know, we're not supposed to talk about that. And he's like, yeah, but like everything about this is weird. And he's still doing his job, but he seems far more measured than before.
It's sounding to me like you're kind of wondering if Lucci and maybe Stussy and Kaku are going to defect and join Luffy
I'm less thinking a defection. I'm thinking that there's more factions at play here.
Well, yeah, I've been saying for a long time. I don't think to you that I think the Marines are going to have a civil war. I think it
seems that way.
Yeah, there's going to be some kind of like huge like falling out between the people who are loyal to the Navy and the people who are loyal to the world government. I think that's where we're headed. And I don't even think that, like, for example, Garp, Kobe, Helmet, like those folks, I think are going to clearly be on like the good side, right? But they're not going to be revolutionaries or anything like that. No. It's going to be a civil war, most likely. And they're going to lose because that's how this story usually goes.
Yeah. So I guess that brings us back to Garp in the end of the chapter. Do you think he's the sword leader? That seems like the obvious answer now, doesn't it?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that, first of all, it's not quite in his nature, right? Like, to me, when I think of Garp, I just don't think of somebody who would operate like a secretive part of the Marines. I think he's just way too brash for that sort of thing. But I don't know. I could just be totally wrong. Who knows? I get the sense more that he's going to clash with like the real head of sword, and there's going to be a whole thing there because he's doing that. He's like taking this on for Kobe's sake. That's my read. But you disagree?
It's just one of those things where, like, you know, are we about to get subverted here? Garp has always kind of been operating on his own rules anyway. He very actively isn't doing what anybody wants him to be doing. The argument that he's not it makes sense if you consider the fact that he's right now just openly defying orders. He's just like, forget civil war or like debating factions. He's just like, nah. I got, he's a Monkey D person. He's got things to do. He's got other people to punch right now, like.
Well, and then that brings us, we should mention Kuma. So the chapter starts off with him crashing into Redport, which we haven't seen, I don't think, since the Reverie. Or when we went to the Reverie, Was that Paradise Port, or was that the other side with the New World? It was probably New World, wasn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure it would be the New World side.
Because that's where Shirahoshi and them went up, the Gondola,
right?
If I'm remembering right.
Yeah, that would. I mean, geographically, that would have to be it.
I believe. I mean, I don't know. I can't even picture though the New World port, so I wonder if, for whatever reason, Fishman Island is on that side of the red line,
because he's coming from Kamabaka Kingdom. Kamabaka Kingdom's on the Paradise side, isn't it?
Oh, is it? You know what? It might be, because technically we're not in the New World until Punk Hazard. So I get, I could see that being the case then. So then that would mean we've been to Redport, but this would be like our second official time, I think.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. It's so weird that like there's an elevator to the Celestial Dragons here, and there are just like people hanging out.
Yeah, because you can literally, because I was curious about this, because I was like, what do we know about the Redport? And I was like, oh yeah, the starfish dude, Papa Goo, I forget his name. He was saying that you can literally like be a tourist. Like you can go up to the Holy Land, like pay, just pay a fee or whatever. He says this thing, I think he says it, where like you can literally go to the New World from the Grand Line, sanctioned by the world government, but you can't bring your ship with you. That's the only thing. So like if you go on the other side, you can't bring your ship with you. Pretty easy, enough. Also, I'm pretty sure pirates can't do that. But yeah, in this case, Kuma's just kind of going up his own way.
This is not what I expected, but to me, my immediate takeaway is, the big robot, the pacifistas are based on the big robot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've somehow inherited the big robot's will.
Yeah, I've seen some people bring that up, because it's literally his thing gets activated after the Straw Hats come into contact with that robot, which coincidentally, attacked Mary Joie. So there clearly seems to be something happening there. It's just weird because, first of all, Kuma was just there, right? Like they just rescued him from the Holy Land. So
that's what's so weird, because so that means that something has changed.
Something's changed. I think there's a big flashback coming with Bonnie, Kuma, like Vegapunk. This chapter, they kind of like Vegapunk even says like, I can't fix him. There's a good reason why. There's something going on there. And it's like, I think it's going to be such an Oda thing that I don't even want to speculate too hard, because I feel like it's a waste of time.
Again, it's one of those things where like it feels like the answer is right in front of us, but it's just not quite formulated enough that it can be twisty. But like we have a dude here who has excised his own brain and put it into effectively a supercomputer. So we know it's possible.
Vegapunk's dream, right, was to create the internet. So like there's all kinds of like bricks that you could make this building out of. That's the thing, is like I don't want to spend 2 hours reading Reddit to find the one person who's right about this.
No, sure, believe me, when they're right, they'll let us know.
Yeah. We'll be able to read the receipts and everything.
It's such a fascinating. Again, there's a lot of things happening. We're in the Redport, and then we haven't even talked about Kid whatsoever, who has arrived in the most exciting place.
Which I thought that was going to be the end of the chapter. I was like, we got another 2 pages? What? And yeah, sure enough. But they're gonna be in Elbaf. I guess we're gonna see Prince Loki at some point. We're gonna see what's going on with the giants. And I thought it was interesting. I think Tekking was the one who brought this up on YouTube, that basically Luffy was gonna go in that direction, right? Not Kid. And then because of Law being like, oh yeah, that's right.
And Usopp's like, every direction's dangerous, and you're like, do you think he'd feel that way now?
Right. That is pretty funny. Do you think? I mean, everyone's kind of assuming that the Straw Hats are going to head to Elbaf because Jagwaldi Sal's there, and there's going to be a lot of stuff clearly like formulating in Elbaf. There's a chance that Shanks might be part of the story there, because we know where Blackbeard is. Blackbeard's at Full Lead, and that's where Garp is headed.
Okay, so before you go too far on that question, do we know he's at Full Lead?
Good question, because last
I don't know the
checks, he was north of Wano, which we don't know what island that is, right?
Yeah, we don't know. And so I'm a little bit confused on the timeline here. It's entirely possible.
Some people think that he captured. Well, some people think he captured Law, and so it's going to be. But that's like a double joint rescue mission for Kobe and Law. That doesn't feel right.
Well, unless if you buy into the Law is sword theory,
I don't. Everybody thinks everybody's sword, and it's like it's right. It's everybody's a scroll kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just I've always found what law theory has ever been right. That's what I keep coming back to.
My personal ship between Robin and Law. That's correct. Cannot convince me otherwise.
Well, my only because I think that's great speculation. But my only edit is that it's not Law; it's the gender swapped Law.
The gender swap.
Yeah.
Oh man, I cannot believe he managed to work that in. But that actually makes that was the point I was going to make. Is Blackbeard's got a crew that could absolutely get him back to full lead, presumably at any point, depending on how powerful that warp.
Right, he's got the warp thing, and like even if the warp can't take him all the way there, like the pawpaw fruit can, it could probably still like affect, because he got to not full of lead. He got to the other island pretty fast, didn't he? From Amazon Lily. I mean, they didn't really tell us how long of a gap of time that was, I guess.
And we don't even know if he went somewhere else in between. We don't know if he went straight from Amazon Lily to
that's true
to intercept the Law, or whoever he was trying to intercept, because he didn't really care. It's just whichever one showed up.
We also don't know where Aokiji is right now, do we? Because he
doesn't appear to be. That was the weird thing too. Is
that's the thing, is he the one at full of lead with Kobe?
Yeah,
instead
of
that's what
I'm wondering.
That's what you were leading to. I didn't consider that. Okay,
because I'm still not fully on Kuzan being the 10th Titanic captain, because that's still not.
Well,
official.
He's not. Yeah, it's not official.
It's not official.
He's one of the other crew members.
Right, which could mean anything. He is genuinely my personal cipher right now.
Oh, because it's clear he's up.
No, I just think I want to know, because we've never gotten a proper flashback with him. We've had a lot of conversations with him. He's had a lot of conversations with members of our main cast and our crew. He has let them go multiple times.
Yes,
we know now for a fact that he preserved Saul.
Yeah, he didn't kill Saul. Saul is, and I think, confirmed the man with the burn scars.
That seems to be the case. Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward, all but confirmed. So it's clear that I wouldn't say agenda necessarily, but it's clear that he's operating under not necessarily his version of that lazy justice that each admiral has their own justice, but rather there's something else he's doing here that. Maybe he finds out that it worked and Saul did survive, and he just hasn't known that the whole time. Maybe that changes something with him. Is he really disillusioned? There's so many different ways to take him, and I just want to know more. I want to spend more than a few panels looking at this guy.
I'm just thinking of this, but I'm wondering then if that makes this a possible precursor to this Marine Civil War, which is Garp going to full lead and having a confrontation with Aokiji I keep calling him Aokiji, which he's not Aokiji anymore. But you know what I mean? Possibly like having that sort of like some kind of like laying the groundwork for the Marines basically fighting each other, while the pirates kind of like roam free, have their own sort of confrontation that leads to a hunt for the One Piece. I mean, that's just one possible route.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like right now, we're still not really, outside of Shanks declaring he's making a move for it, which let's be honest, could mean anything, since at this point he clearly knows more than he's letting on to everyone.
Well, some people are speculating that he's going to look for somebody who knows where the last road poneglyph is. If that person is Jaguar D. Saul, then that puts him in the way of the Straw Hats. And there are a few ways this chessboard could go. Yeah,
there's a lot, but we're not quite there to even racing for that. Yeah. At least from Luffy's perspective. He's still like, okay, that was cool. We saved Wano. I'm sure we'll find it eventually.
Sure. Yeah, he's still adventuring. Yeah. It was like, who wasn't it? Robin, who was basically like, I won't tell you the rest of what's in the newspaper, Luffy. I don't want to overwhelm you.
Yeah, he's like, you'll tell me when you think it's relevant. Exactly, I love that he trusts her so much with that. He's
of course.
He's always just fully trusted her. Like, she's like, you owe me literally. I have to live on this ship now because you cursed me with life. And he's like, yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Well, let's go back to Egghead here then. I guess that's all we have left here. So Straw Hats reunite, but I think the main thing is we see the Vegapunk satellites reunite with Stella. So we get like our nice, like kind of, full on shot of all the Vegapunks minus Atlas, and we
but not all of them. Wink, wink.
Not all of them. Wait, were we missing somebody in that
We are.
that full spread? Who are we missing? Pythagoras was there.
We are missing York, which may or may not be relevant.
I thought York was there.
Or not York. Who is the Atlas is the one who got damaged.
Yeah. I said Atlas is not in that shot.
Yeah. So that might be relevant. We don't know.
That's true. Yeah, because Alice was wounded. We don't know to what extent. I don't think Alice is dead. I think there would have been a bigger to do. Lilith, I think, was pretty pissed about that whole thing. But yeah. There's a traitor apparently. Some people think that a traitor lowered the defenses, let CP0 in. I've seen a lot of different theories about this. Grand Line Review did a whole thing where he kind of goes with the premise that it was a traitor and not something else. I think the first round of theories I saw were, this must be the mysterious ally that is on the island, that Vegapunk asked for help, and then they respond, of course, I've been waiting for your order. And then the only sort of real hint we get is that this person, the government probably knows this person is here, because the way that the thinker, I forget the thinker's name in the story. I'd have to look it up. But the one who's always in Edison, that's it. Edison says like, if you're talking about who I think you are, then taking our side would mean being driven out of home and chased by the government, which I think you might disagree. It sort of implies to me that they know that person is there with Vegapunk, but it's like Sentimaru, where like taking a side would lead to the same issue. But what do you think? Because I saw some people who were saying, this is one of the Roger pirates. I saw all kinds of weird theories about who this person is. The leader of Sword. Oh man.
So, with the call to the person, it doesn't seem like they know he's there because this is a government island, right?
Yes.
So if the issue was just specifically that they were wanted by the government, this is not the place to hide. Like that's abundantly clear.
Hiding in plain sight, though, can be a strategy if they're an ally of,
Sure. And it's hard not to feel like they're someone we know because again we're so far along now that introducing too many characters. Vegapunk is a crapshoot. We've been waiting for him for a decade, so whatever. But we're not really bringing too many newbies to the table. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Saul is confirmed on Elbaf, right? It couldn't be him.
Yeah, he's at least not. That was the last place Vegapunk saw him.
Okay. Yeah.
Technically, we don't know that he's there, but it seems pretty obvious again that that's like where things are really going to start converging.
It's not Sabo, is it? Oh, please don't let it be Sabo.
No, it has to be. It has to be someone who isn't actively involved in things right now.
Yeah, somebody who's connected to Vegapunk. That's what limits it for me.
Yeah, the Viz translation says "waiting for your order." That's right. The interesting twist. This isn't like he says it as a request. He's like, right. I request, or I request, or his little pun. And then it replies with, I've been waiting for your order. It
right.
Sounds,
so it's like they work for Vegapunk.
Right.
Who would work for Vegapunk? That's the thing.
My nonsense, no proof, bizarre theory is that this is actually Bartholomew Kuma. This is the real deal.
What? Like the real
That would
Kuma?
be the real Kuma.
Oh, so your idea is that the Kuma, okay. You think that that the Kuma is like an android that maybe has his he's a Stella satellite?
Some sort of backup. And then of course there's that theory that you mentioned, Grand Line Review's theory that Stella isn't even the real Vegapunk, which an interesting idea, but I don't think has a lot of water right now.
Yeah, not at this current moment.
But at this point, the idea that this doesn't end in some sort of situation where we get a happy Bonnie cry, it just seems out of character for Oda.
I like that. I really like that because they have been setting it up that the android Kuma would have like a paramythia, right? So like an artificial paramecia fruit. Mm-hmm. And so that's the pawpaw fruit. Like we even see him the pawpaw fruit doesn't work as well, right? He kind of crashes into the wall, right. Which I just interpreted as it being on the fritz. But what if, that something happened in between the time, like in the time skip where that wasn't the Kuma we knew guarding the ship. It was it was a satellite Kuma.
Yeah.
And then
there's literally, Yeah. There's so many, especially since we know that Kuma goes from guarding the Thousand Sunny and at some point between then ends up in the Holy Land as a slave. There's so much time between those two events when you really think about it.
There is. You're right.
So, like, there's nothing realistically, since we know Vegapunk is no ally to basically anybody. He will just go where the money is, so to speak.
He has friends.
He has friends, but he doesn't have Nakama, at the risk of being cringe here. He doesn't show
he's not going to raise a banner for Dragon.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, the closest he'll get is preserving the knowledge that the Clover, found. Yeah. So, it's not necessarily that this is someone who the government is actively seeking or hiding in plain sight. It's entirely possible that he's just been here the whole time and no one's noticed because he looks like all the other ones.
But see, then, okay, if that's the case and it is Kuma, then why would they need to get rid of CP0 to escape? Because there is that whole thing where he says, like, oh, if CP0, as long as CP0 is out of the picture, escape is a breeze. What would it be about CP0 that makes it hard for them if they have the power of the Pawpaw fruit? That's what I don't get.
That's where I would flip around and say, just because it's the real Kuma doesn't mean it's the real Kuma body.
I see. So it's like just his consciousness. Maybe the Stella doesn't have like the same power. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that could raise a bunch of things.
There's a whole bunch of questions. Does that technically mean he's dead? Would the fruit still be around?
Good question.
It's not like I said. It's not based on anything.
I wouldn't say that he's dead because he has to have some kind of ability. Because when he mentions like, oh, if we have him on our side, like we're good. So he apparently can do something. So I don't know if I want to discount, him entirely as like a threat.
I just know that there's a Kuma payoff somewhere that like if he were just dead, putting aside even just the complications of how devil fruits work, there is literally no reason why he wouldn't have just told her that. He is dragging this is a man who literally walked into a room and said, oh, hey, no, that's the sun god Nika. That's weird. Why can he do that? And they're all like, it's the gum fruit. What's a gum fruit? That's not. No, the devil fruits are the wishes of. He just starts dropping nonsense to these people.
Egghead exposition.
Exposition, exactly. He's an exposition machine right now. So if he was dead, if Kuma was dead,
he would just say it.
He would just say that.
Yeah.
He would not dance around the issue. There is something here, whether the body on the red port is the real Kuma or not. There is something here that we are not aware of, and he even says he has to give something to her. There is something he has to provide.
Well, that would explain why he can't just change Kuma back and fix him, right? Because there's a good reason. Because
there's something separated. This seems to be the implication. So again, my nonsense based on just basically trying to pick at loose tears here, that it's Kuma, because that makes. If you sit here and think about it long enough, maybe it doesn't, but to me at least clicks a little bit.
That to me feels better than this being like, oh, okay, one of the Rogers pirates or just some random cameo. Like some kind of random cameo would not be as satisfying as we've been building up to Bonnie and Kuma, resolution toward that. So that would be, I don't know. I feel like when I'm on Reddit, I'm looking for that one theory. It's like, you're the guy, you're the Redditor that I'm.
The whole theory about it being like Scop or Gabon or something, I totally get the the desire for that.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't find that super convincing. But yeah.
I think everybody's looking for Roger pirates, and I kind of feel like we've, outside of finding out exactly what Shanks's whole place in this is going to be, I think we've made our peace with the Roger pirates. I don't think you're going to get better.
Yeah, we sailed with them. We had fun with them. Yeah.
Especially I don't know if you watched the anime episodes for that.
I did, yeah.
They did a very good job at adapting.
They extended it a bit, and it felt, they had the song and everything, and
the song really does it.
They really took advantage of the format. Wano in general was such a level up has been such a level up for the anime.
Oh Lord, yes, so much. It's. I hope for its consistency. I put on our site. I don't know if you saw that I snuck this in, by the way, but when we posted our most anticipated anime
I saw
of the year,
I saw what you did.
I slipped it in there because I know what's coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're getting Gear 5th this year in anime. and
We
it's
are.
going to be glorious, and everyone needs to be ready for it. But anyway,
I hope it's better than when we got the Naruto Fox form or whatever. That was such a letdown from manga to anime, but that's a whole other story.
Oh man, that's a whole other story. Yeah, I think people are looking for Roger Pirates. I really think that we've reached a point where it would be almost too weird at this point. It would be almost too...
It would be out of place. It'd be jarring. We already got Silver's Rayleigh in this arc. Like, come on, we're good.
Yeah, it's just
what do we
like,
need another Roger Pirate for?
It would start to imply that they've been guiding things. You know, it's too puppet mastery for my taste, and it doesn't really fit the vibe. You know, if this has all been planned by Roger to a T, and his crew's been executing like this long game, then like, what's the point of Luffy just setting a random direction and ending up where he's ended up? You know,
Agree.
That's not what we're here for. I don't think it's what he's here for either. So that's why I'm leaning towards Kuma. It's the only thing that makes like, oh yeah, he's a character who's technically here but isn't here, but could be here, because we know where the revolutionaries are. We know.
Well, Vegapunk, we gotta move on, because Vegapunk has formally requested that not only the Straw Hats take him on their ship, but all of the satellites, which I thought was kind of funny. I was kind of curious, like, if they were going to go there, like I was like, you're going to introduce all these new characters, you got to do something with them. But I think we are kind of setting up something major happening with the Vegapunks, because, you know, the defenses go down. It's implied that there's like some kind of traitor, like somebody's done this. Different satellites sort of react to this, and lots of theories are floating around, because what happens is the defenses go down, CP0 comes in, and the defenses go back up. So some people have been speculating that it's Lilith, because Lilith is the evil one, and she sets out at the very beginning of this of like, I want to fight them. She has the rocket launcher, and she just wants to like get revenge for Atlas. So okay, sure, the motivation there makes sense, that she would raise it, maybe use there was a theory I think Grand Line Review put out there that the cat that like follows Edison around, I think, could have done it, and that's why they didn't detect it, and somebody just ordered the cat to do it. Could have been Lilith, could have been Edison. Maybe Edison has an invention that, you know, only works if CP0 comes in. You can kind of like stretch it so that anybody here could have done it. But I think the most popular theory I've seen going around, it's who I kind of suspected while I was reading it, but rereading it, I was like, I don't know actually, because of the way this person is reacting, but Shaka seems like the most suspicious. I don't know how you feel about that, but there are some kind of clues about this. Like, there's the whole thing where Vegapunk says, there's no way to avoid fighting, even in the course of escape, right? And then, Lilith is about to do something, and then right after that, Shaka is like, oh, don't run off on some mindless offensive. And then later, Vegapunk says, the Stella, he says, as long as CP0 is out of the picture, escape is a piece of cake. And then Shaka is like, or like Lilith is like, oh, I'll escort you to the port, blah, blah, blah. And then Shaka is like, yeah, do that. Let's hurry. Right after Shaka like makes that sort of like declaration of like, we need to hurry, that's when the defenses go down. So some people have kind of said like, yeah, okay, so he sort of reacts of like, who did that? What's the meaning of this? Some people say it's like, oh, it's not him saying that. Maybe it's somebody else. You just see him in the frame. I'm curious though, if you think that that's a stretch, because I genuinely don't know for sure.
So I'm double checking a panel here. I'm going to be the Jamie to your Joe Rogan here for a second. It's actually Edison who says, as long as CP0 is out of the picture.
Oh, okay, yeah. Vegapunk's the one who says, well, we're getting help, folks, and then the bubble kind of moves over. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, so... But
there is the whole thing of like, he says to Lilith that the whole point of this is that they just need to make sure that Vegapunk gets out of there. And so the strategy of luring CP0 in as a feint does make sense for the greater good. I think that's the main point of the theory. The only thing that makes the theory fall apart a little bit is Shaka is sort of being like, oh, drat, we were too late. Like, why would he not just say that he did it? That's the only part where I'm like,
The thing about Shaka that I think is important to remember is he's supposed to be the measured one. Yeah. He's the aspect of logic. So I don't think he is programmed, I guess, to use the right term here, to be over exaggerated.
Or to be impulsive.
Or to be impulsive. So like, I don't think his reactions are going to be the same as the other satellites. Though it is worth pointing out that he is the one who discussed with Dragon dying,
Yes.
not the Stella body. So it's they call him the good, but I think he's supposed to be kind of the logical part of the brain. So I don't think he's going to react the same way. That said, he's also the one most capable of probably making such a feint, like letting only the people in, and just knowing that the Straw Hats have the capability of fighting them now. Which just need to quickly, the callback to Kaku jumping on their ship and waking Zoro up again. Perfect. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, right up to Water 7.
That kind of callback. Love it. Especially since this time he's actually like, even if you're Usopp, I'm going to cut you. He's just like, yeah, no, let's go.
We don't see
that
Brook
for him.
When
we don't see Brook at all.
We see the ship in almost the entire ship in the frame. We only see like Zoro kind of like laid out.
He's probably up to no good. That Brook.
He's probably pulling
alone
Sanji.
On the ship. Pulling a Sanji. I'm sure it was just one of those like, there's no point in drawing this right now. Because this is, especially once Zoro realizes who he's fighting, I don't think he would want Brook involved. I think this would be a no. I need to set this baseline for myself, please.
But then that makes you wonder, right? So like, what happens next? Because it looks like the Seraphim don't come with CP0, right? So they're out of the picture. And if the Seraphim were with them, then we would be kind of nervous, because like all of the Seraphim and CP0, I think, is too much for the Straw Hats. Based on what Vegapunk
the
said.
Seraphim are definitely too much right now.
Yeah, and Luffy was able to handle Lucci, but he can't handle like multiple Seraphim. I think like it would take the entire monster quartet to handle the Seraphim, and even then, I think that it would be like narrow victory, if a victory. That's how they're kind of painting it, right?
Yeah, and you'll notice that the quartet has been broken up very strategically here. Up until this reuniting, they haven't been in the same room when the Seraphim have been encountered. So that's an interesting little.
Now they are, because haven't they reunited now? Yeah.
So they've reunited now, with the exception of Zoro and Brook.
Yeah, so we got a trio.
Like up to this point where the Seraphim are not in the area, they're not all there.
Yeah.
So,
and Zoro can handle CP0, I think, fine. I think, but I don't know if he can handle Lucci and Kaku. Maybe he can, but
I don't think Lucci is the one we need our eyes on, because Lucci has exactly one goal and one goal only, and that's to fight Straw Hat Luffy. I think that's all he cares about at this point. He's not letting that on completely, but he's already made it clear that he is completely ready to ignore orders because he wants Straw Hat Luffy.
But he can't stop. That's the thing. He can't stop Luffy. Like
no, he's not going to win. I'm just saying this is his character flaw fully realized now, is that he's now reached the point where he isn't going to give up.
He's got to have another trick up his sleeve. There's got to be something else.
But for me, everyone has forgotten that there are 3 CP0 agents on that island. There are 3 people who got up there, and in my opinion, all eyes are on Stussy. All eyes are on Stussy.
I love the Stussy theories. I love that people are finally embracing her being part of Mads as a real possibility.
That is what's setting me off, because Oda a few weeks ago introduced the biggest wild card to the story of them all, in my opinion, and that is that the cover stories can have direct, immediate impact on the chapter that they are the cover story.
They can show up in the chapters now. That
in real
is out
time.
Of the bottle. It's amazing.
That is, we have gone through the looking glass now. So if you have a Mads cover story, and this is the first, that's the last cover story we've got, because it's New Year's, so we got the big color cover spread that's now my computer wallpaper. For this chapter.
Nice little touch for Film Red on this week.
Nice little farewell to it, because the theater run is ending.
Theater run's ending, and so everybody's kind of dressed in red, and we get to see Ulti. And I know some people are like, Ulti's going to come back in the story. She's not dead. Like, okay. You can
Uta. No, we can say goodbye to Uta. She's adorable. I love her. But,
Ulti, I called her. Sorry, not Ulti.
Yeah. I could see what. Yeah, no, it's good. But we have her possibly being Mads. She definitely knows more than she's letting on.
Yes.
Even her questioning of Lucci in the chapter is curious, because she doesn't really react to his skepticism. She's just has the question mark speech bubble, and that's interesting. That's interesting to me because she's definitely one of the more interesting characters that has entered the story in recent years that we still don't know anything about.
Yeah, because we saw her a little bit at Whole Cake Island, and I remember I was like, this feels like a major character for later. I remember having
because it's not Khalifa. It's not Khalifa who's here, even though we could have a rematch for Nami.
Right. Yeah.
It's a new character.
Khalifa, I think, have they noted her whereabouts in the story right now?
She's in red. Since we were just talking about that, she is a CP0 agent. But we don't know where she is right this second.
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing her since Reverie, unless I'm forgetting some other interstitial thing. But what a chapter!
Safe to say, yeah. Oof.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny how there's no way we could have done recaps like this. Like when, for example, Otama is like, doing the Kibi Dango thing. It's like, what are we going to talk about?
It would be. This is the third chapter in a row where we've debated the ethics of Otama's devil fruit, the moral boundaries. It really feels like we've entered a new age. Not since
a new saga. More than a new saga. It feels like another time skip has happened without the time skip.
I was about to compare it to Fishman Island.
Yeah,
because Fishman Island feels a lot the same way, where we show up. We get just barely enough of establishing, like, this is how this island works. And then we are off to the races. Things are happening. We don't, the world events were kind of delivered after the fact, or kind of in the middle, I guess I should say, by Jinbei and Fishman Island. But I'm a
little sad we didn't get much downtime, like Jinbei, like a little chapter where Jinbei, tries to has his chopper moment, he's like, am I really part of the crew? And like, I don't know. I was missing a little bit of that. Maybe the anime will do it. Who knows? But
I think with Jinbei, the fact that he's been around over the course of time had to befriend basically every member of the Straw Hats over the course of multiple adventures already.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people were like, well, we didn't get the scene of him drinking with the crew. And it's like, they had their 4-day long Wano party. We got that really funny bit where he's the only one who shows up in the morning. Because he's now everyone's dad.
He and Robin have their little bonding walk, stroll along Onigashima, and I hear you.
And we've had it over the years. He was on Whole Cake with Sanji. He openly apologizes to Nami at first opportunity in Fishman Island. I think he's just had. He doesn't need to He's a cool fishman. Usopp's on board. One more person to protect him. He's not gonna complain.
I was gonna say, because I've seen some people speculate, and by some people speculate, I mean I'm talking about myself. I've been speculating. I've been wondering, because we get so much of the devil fruit setup, the green blood stuff, and if something does happen where the Straw Hats are overwhelmed, I've been wondering if they are sort of setting up a reason for why the monster quartet, with the exception of Luffy, none of them have devil fruits. And I've been curious, ever since they introduced the idea of a Jinbei Seraphim with the swim fruit, and we have it confirmed that they can invent a fruit. If there's going to be some kind of moment where they're like, oh, Jinbei could do a devil fruit, and he refuses because of course he would. He's a fishman. He's not going to give up his ability to be a fish. But I have been wondering if they're going to do that for any of the Straw Hats. If they're going to have some kind of thing where one of them who doesn't have a devil fruit right now gets one. I don't know. It's loose.
That's an interesting idea. Because, for one, we know that there is at least one non-devil fruit user who would eat at least one devil fruit if given the opportunity. We know that for sure.
Sanji.
That's Sanji.
He just wants
and
the
it would be for unscrupulous reasons.
Yes.
So he should never be allowed to have it. But we know for a fact that at least one of them has considered it.
Usopp would never. I don't think he would ever do it or I think he would, but I don't think Oda would ever let him because he has to be.
I think he has to earn it. I think he has to earn his heroic status, and I think giving him a power, especially since we know he's got Haki now, and we know Haki beats Devil Fruit. So in the case of Usopp, a devil fruit is no longer the same kind of upgrade that it might have been
Sure.
a while ago.
You think he's going to get armament next? I don't know.
Armament.
Actually, I think Future Sight would be for him, right?
Yeah.
If anybody else on the crew can get that, it's him.
It's because it's already observation hockey for him.
Yeah, and then Zoro would be the other because his observation is pretty good, and Sanji's too.
Right. I think it's they teased it a little bit in Red that he has that he has the potential for it. Again, when they eventually do meet the red hair crew, it's going to be so interesting to see what happens with Usopp. I wonder if that's why he's kind of been hanging out in the background for a while, is because, well, for one, Elbaf. Whenever we get to Elbaf, that's Usopp time. But
well, that's why I'm kind of wondering, like, what if? So they do tease a thing where like Logias can't have an artificial, and we don't have a Logia user on the crew. Do you think that'll ever happen?
We don't. There's a part of me that really genuinely feels like we're done getting crew members. It's one of those things. No, I don't mean getting a crew member, but somebody getting Logia power. But I guess we got Sabo. That was going to say it's like you're not going to get a new character. Yeah. This idea of devil fruits of the non-devil fruit users getting a devil fruit is super interesting, because we know that like from a narrative standpoint, you don't want all of them to have devil fruits because that collapses.
Oh, it is even said that, right? Well, Oda even used that whole thing with the Blackbeard pirates. Like that's their greatest weakness right now.
It's a weakness.
None of them can swim.
Someone on that boat has to be able to get Luffy out of the ocean at all times. It's
Jinbei
mandatory.
is like volunteered by like the rest of the crew.
Yeah, by default.
You swim the fastest, unless Jinbei gets like a water Logia, which has not been confirmed.
And he already knows that's his job too, because that's how this arc started. He's in the water. Better go get him.
Before that, Sanji was the fast one underwater, because of Arlong Park and all that.
Indeed, and since you mention it. We do know that there's SBSs where he has decided what devil fruits the other Straw Hats would get if given the opportunity.
Yeah, that's right.
And SBS content does make it into the main. It does. I could totally see a situation where, like, because we know there's an admiral coming, for example. We know that there's a lot of Marines on the way.
We didn't get an update on all of that. Lino and like what he's doing right this second. We just know he's coming.
Right this second. Yeah, we just know he's coming. So there's entirely stakes here where it is possible that someone has to do something that they don't want to do, or gets the opportunity to get an upgrade. Because upgrades are kind of, it seemed at first that we were en route to some Frankie upgrades, but I'm starting to feel like we're short on time to do that now.
This does, though, to your point, feel like the inverse Enies Lobby to me. The Enies Lobby Water 7. This even starts out a lot like Water 7. And
it really wants you thinking about it.
He does. And I think the difference here is that instead of CB9 being the one in like the fortress area and like the Straw Hats assault, like in every arc it seems sometimes, this instead is like the Straw Hats are the ones who are being assaulted, because they, it's I really like the construction of it. I like that we're not just doing another raid type story. Maybe we'll do the tournament thing like you're speculating, but I just like that like it's inverse. But if it's inverted and now the Straw Hats are in the CP9 position, what happened in Enies Lobby? 2 of the characters got devil fruits. Just saying.
That's I'm not against that idea. I will say that much. Whether it stands, if you look at the material, forget that. I think it stands water. It's something he's thought about before. And I have jokingly referred to this as Water 7-2 multiple times.
Well, you know who would make the most sense? Would be Frankie. Because this is his island with Vegapunk, and people have been speculating that he becomes the Sunny as like the foreshadowing for the bounty poster. I wonder if there's if there could be a fruit that connects him to machines even more, because that would actually further his character, be something that Vegapunk could. I don't know. I'm going too far.
You think no. I like this. This is fascinating. Something, because magnetism is a fruit, right? Kids' power. It's not directly interfacing with machines, but like.
They were talking about the whole power source thing, weren't they? In this,
and most people think the power source thing is just something to do with the Nika fruit, which I'm like, just because he's called a sun god doesn't mean that he's like. We already have a sun. Yeah, we have the Maramara fruit if we want symbolism there.
Yeah.
But I could see that being a thing, especially since we know now for 100% certain that even if the Void Century Kingdom isn't specifically the kingdom being referred to, but let's face it, it is. That technology existed, so it's entirely within the realm of possibility that a devil fruit would be able to be tied to that.
Wish along the lines of like the ancient kingdom, something they would have wished for back then. Vegapunk has been guarding and holding sacred all this time and gifting it to Frankie at some point. I don't know.
Right, because he can't eat it because he's already got one.
Yeah.
I mean that,
And there's no other Straw Hat I think would fit the bill for this. I mean, Nami's the only other one we didn't mention, and I don't see her.
Nami is too smart to eat a devil fruit.
She doesn't want that weakness on her plate.
She would never in a heartbeat.
But no, so
I do like. No, I was going to say I do like this idea. But I was just because I just said it. Do you think Vegapunk knows why Blackbeard has 2 devil fruits?
Probably.
That sounds. He would know, right?
If anybody knows about like the whole like giving people devil fruits, like we even kind of touched on the Absalom thing, right? And wasn't that a whole thing where they were able to take his devil fruit, and it's not technically confirmed that they did it by killing? Because remember, Blackbeard said that they would be able to take Hancock's devil fruit without killing her. So like they have a way to do it. And if anybody knows anything about that transference, it would theoretically be Vegapunk. The only thing is Vegapunk and Blackbeard wouldn't have really had a run-in except for the time when Blackbeard was a warlord. But I feel like he wasn't a warlord that long, so it seems kind of fishy.
The only things we've seen warlord, like him using the warlord material, really does seem to be either people who are in Impel Down right now or the original. Because because basically ever since we've been aware of the warlord system, it's been in flux. So
unless Blackbeard met Vegapunk when he was part of the Whitebeard pirates,
very possible. I mean, there's there's no way Vegapunk doesn't know that there's a pirate of high bounty caliber running around with 2 devil fruits. There's no it was on. It was
what they're going to do
portrayed to the world.
If we're being realistic, the more Oda thing is for him to be like, yeah, I wonder how he did that. Like, if he's going to be traveling with the Straw Hats, like I have a feeling that he has no idea, and that he's going to be like, we should go find out. Like he seems to have that personality.
Now I'm imagining him walking around the Sunny and collecting blood samples of all of the Straw Hats when they're not looking.
Yeah, which of you has green blood? Not green bull, green blood.
Yeah. So let me, I guess, kind of to because we have dissected this up and down. Right now, what do you think are the odds that the Straw Hats actually leave with a Dr. Vegapunk? Not even all of them, just one of them.
Astronomically high. I think it says near certainty. There's no way they leave Egghead without, I think, the Stella.
I think if it's any of them.
I think my guess is that there's going to be some major sacrifice. If one, if not all, of the satellites could lay down their, machine parts in order to save the main body. I could see it being like a few of them and a few of them not. I could see it because I think Lilith, they have more to do with that character. I think her escorting, Vegapunk would make sense. To me, it makes most sense for Shaka to die. Because as we've already mentioned, and so, but I just, they've already set it up too that like Lilith would be really upset about this because they have some kind of rapport, some kind of back and forth. But yeah, I don't think we leave Egghead without Edison, Pythagoras, and Lilith at the very least. And of course, Egghead.
Yeah, I would say for sure at least the main body seems, barring some sort of strange twist that we have no way to predict. It still just seems like everything's going to come up Mugiwara, This is, it will be fun.
If this is, so we've been saying this mirrors Eni's lobby, but other people have said it also is kind of mirroring Sabadi Archipelago could have a tragic end. It could have some sort of like the Straw Hats getting split up. I hope not, because we've already had the Straw Hats split up so much, in the last few years that I would be really against that if we had some kind of weird like event where they're all over
probably
the place.
Have issues with it.
Yeah.
I would have issues with it for sure. I'm glad that we have them all reunited right now.
It's nice to just have them be in Straw Hats. Yeah, and they're not in like the big Onigashima like running around everywhere. The anime has been getting this a little annoying. It's been getting a little annoying with this. We're like, we're running to the performance floor, we're running to the roof, we're running. Like, just stop running. Just do something where you are. But that's settling down now. But anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how much of Roof Piece was actually not on the roof.
Yeah, I mean, all that hype. And I mean, they really put the effort into those episodes, but it's not that, drawn out, which I appreciate. Like, please, by all means, like, we don't need 48 Rebecca flashbacks in this. How funny would that be, though, if there had been a Rebecca flashback in Wano? Just to, like, mess with people.
Just to do it.
Just to get people to, like, call their parents and be like, I quit my job. Like, have, like, a mental breakdown. I'm sorry. I'm still dealing with some stuff with Dressrosa. Clearly, this was a very drawn out thing. I don't think in the future we'll be doing this long of like a discussion, but I think we had to get a lot of stuff out of our system. Travis, we needed to.
I mean, I think we've covered a lot of egghead that we will not now have to cover again come next chapter.
Exactly. Yeah, we kind of had to like do a little bit of a previously on. We had to recap some other stuff. We had to goof around and waste time. So yeah, I mean, people will understand. But yeah, I think in the future we'll be able to do more instant takes and build off of what we've already said. And I feel like we've covered it. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to mention, even though there are a couple of little things here and there.
No, I'm good to go. I'm excited to see what comes next.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, this has been Rookie Pirate Radio. I don't know how we're going to sign off these things moving forward, but also, you know what? I did forget something. I forgot to say what the name of the chapter is. The hero deploys.
Oh my goodness.
That's kind of an important thing. I even had it in my notes. I was like, all right, and then I'll say what the name of the chapter is. All right. Anyway. We will be talking about chapter 1072 when it comes out. And Travis, do you know when that is? I think it's going to be in a week, right? Like end of January. People were saying it'd be like around January 20th. I forget.
I can tell you. So we are recording this on January 10th, and it's 12 days away. So the 22nd. 22nd.
That sounds right. Yeah, we usually get kind of like a funky release schedule around this time of year. In Japan, but and Travis, I told you I'm going to be in Japan in February.
That's so much fun.
Yes,
that's very exciting.
It's going to be a good time to be there. And unfortunately, I found out late that a lot of the One Piece, like the One Piece kind of amusement park thing, is closed at Tokyo Tower. So I was kind of sad about that. I had to tell my wife,
that's a shame,
because she was like, "What is One Piece?" And I was like, I had to like sit her down and just be like, "There's something I've been hiding from you all this time we've been together."
Oh no!
I explained One Piece to her, and she was just like, "Why is it so long?" It's just
that. I look forward to your updates on explaining to her why it's so long.
Yeah, please keep asking me about this because I need to invent something. I'll do my best.
My spouse has been reading One Piece a very long time as well, so I don't have to do that.
Okay, well, we have other common interests, me and her. You know what? She's like the sweetest person in the universe because she literally told me that she would be willing to like watch the anime and stuff because I told her, I was like, I don't want to do a bunch of One Piece stuff in Japan. You won't have as much fun. So when I won't have fun if you're not having fun. She's like, I'll watch it. Like I was like, oh my gosh, you're too nice. Here's how many episodes of the anime there are. And she was like, what?
This is my controversial take, but I've had to provide this to someone that I imagine we will have on this podcast at some point. Our poor editor-in-chief has been cajoled by her husband into watching some One Piece, and I recommended the episode of East Blue rather than watching a bunch of the anime episodes, which is a controversial take.
I never recommend that. It leaves too much out.
Well, it also spoils things, but I would, the only reason that I'm doing this is he gets one shot. And if you get one shot to try to explain, like, in the early bits of One Piece, you want to get them to Arlong Park as fast as possible. You really want that payoff of that first saga kind of wrapping up. So
I get that, but I think
if she's only going to watch one, make her watch the one movie, and then go back and do it once she finally gets what makes this so good. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this episode and knows that was my plan, but...
I know, yeah. I mean, she might. I was going to send this to everybody, but, well...
Yeah. The plot has been revealed.
There you go.
I'm the reason he started reading it anyway, so everything's my fault.
I'm so proud of you. Yeah, we have other people in the in-between drafts world who've been, like Adonis Gonzalez has been catching up on the most recent stuff. I think he was like kind of like me, like into it at a young age, but he didn't, he kind of just started like getting into it from Alabasta on. But there's all kinds of people I would love to have joined the manga ranks, and talk to us about some of this stuff, because we don't know all the theories. I mean, there are too many to count. I can't keep up with all the YouTube videos, so we'll try though. But yeah, we'll be back then for chapter 1072. I don't know if we'll do something in between, maybe something devoted just to theories and speculation or something like that. We'll keep discussing it since we're still figuring out this format and how often we want to do this and all that stuff. So for the time being, Travis, thanks for your time. It's fun talking to you about One Piece. Simple as that.
And thank you for yours. It's always a joy.